What's up, everybody? Another episode of Pastor Plus. I'm here with my good friend, Pastor Corey Howse. Pastor, man, good to have you in today.
It's good to be here today, Bishop.
Connection Hill.
Connection Hill.
Out there on the hill, man. How's things going out there on the hill?
Man, Connection Hill's going. It's going pretty good.
That's good.
We're hanging during this time of pandemic. Susan Beaumont will call this a liminal season. So we're doing all right.
That's good, man.
Yes, sir.
That's good. Of course, man, you've probably been seeing us having these conversations about Pastor Plus.
Yes.
Had some familiar names that you may have known in the studio.
So good names. I'm just glad to be a part of this, Bishop. I'm honored.
Man, it's awesome that we all get to serve in ministry together in some way. We're close to each other.
Yeah.
And it's been, let's kind of start there. It's been a pretty interesting season, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah. What kind of adjustments have you seen you've had to make?
My God, Bishop, I have made adjustments personally. I've made adjustments professionally.
Wow.
I mean, it has been an interesting 12 months, to say the least. I mean, when you think about all of a sudden your world changed.
Yeah.
You're familiar. And when your familiar changed, you were introduced to a new world that you thought was going to be a short season. But the truth of the matter is we're still in it, and we're still trying to figure and navigate through with the ups and downs. I mean, as a matter of fact, it's like a roller coaster. It's you do well, and all of a sudden there's a dip.
Yeah.
And you do well, and it's how do you move the people forward when you're in a place of uncertainty yourself, and the people have confidence in you as the pastor leader, and you're in an unfamiliar place. And you talk about, you always, I mean, in other places before you were in your familiar, before this, you were in your familiar, you were strong, and even in that, you knew God would lead you out because there was a track record of him, and you watched him. If you didn't see him do it if you hadn't experienced it with you saw him do it with other people. But in this pandemic, there hadn't been anybody here to watch.
Wow. Model.
There's no model. And you're literally trusting God. And the people are following you. So you talk about adjustments. We have made some adjustments. It's some me time. It's getting in a place, having your own sabbatical, so to speak, getting in your own place and finding you as an individual person, while also trying to find a place how you can lead the people, man. It's been a challenge. I mean, I can unpack all that, and it's more to unpack even in all that stuff, but that's the short answer of the long. Yeah. It's been an interesting ride, an interesting journey, and God is still developing us in this season that we're in.
One of the things I love and respect about you is you are a preacher's preacher, man.
Oh, bless you, man.
You know what I'm saying? And I was, one of the joys I've actually, every pastor has had the opportunity through this season to go to church.
Yes, sir.
Because we can come home and I can come visit Connection Hill now, right?
Yeah.
Because everything is streaming, right? And man, I'm so inspired.
Oh, bless you.
To see you, man. You are preaching like the room is full. Yeah. Like, I'm like, man, the house, I'm up shouting at the TV, like, come on, God. Explain, how does that feel? You got to have a deep love for preaching to stand there in front of that camera when you're used to hearing the amens and just flat-footed preach.
Yeah. Bishop, it's interesting because as a young fellow, I was the only child. And as the only child, you don't necessarily have buddies when you get up and when you're at the house by yourself. And so as a child, I'm answering your question, but I'm getting there. Yeah. As a child, I would have these situations where I would play. The NCAA March Madness would be on.
Yeah.
And so I would watch the games on the TV, and I would make my own net. I would make my own ball, and I would take a hanger, and I would take from the potato sack. That would be my net, and I would be shooting the basket when they shot the basket, and there was no crowd. So guess what? I would say, when he shoots a three, that's the crowd. And so I was a pretender. I was imagining there was a large crowd. Let's fast forward. Here we are in 2021.
Come on, man.
And so in my mind, I'm imagining there's an amen that goes there. Yeah. There's deacon so-and-so that's sitting on the pew. There's the preacher that's on the side. And so preaching, that is what has helped me personally preach through this time, because I was able to imagine and go to a place,
my God,
that I did the same thing I did when I was a little child, little boy.
Yeah.
I was able to imagine. So it helps, and of course the Holy Spirit. But that's how we're able to do it during this time. It's been a challenge, but we go there.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And the biggest challenge, I believe, is having the proper tools.
Oh man.
You know,
yes.
I mean, because it's one thing to sit there and preach.
Yes.
But if you don't think that on the other side of that camera, somebody's watching,
right?
So it takes the proper tools. You got to have proper equipment. You got to have. How's that been navigating through this process of just trying to figure out, do we have the right kind of materials?
It changed our ministry, and I'll back up to, and I'll answer some more of that. It changed me in the sense of I sat down at a table and tried to preach, and I was so uncomfortable. It wasn't me.
Wow.
And so I had to find a place.
Yeah.
Where I was comfortable. You know,
that's good.
There's some other pastors who can do it both ways. I mean, they can sit down. There's some pastors who can set the scenes up, be in a place, and just fluidly just talk. But Bishop, I found out that's not me. I wasn't comfortable. And so I had to find a place. I had to find me, and then just be okay with it, you know, to be okay. And I think that's for pastors. You got to find a place where you're comfortable and just
that's
be okay.
That's good.
Where you're in your strength during this time, because we need to be strong and confident in doing what we do, at least until you get to the sitting down at the table and doing a PowerPoint and doing, some other things. I think you just be in your strength and then be okay. If you're not doing what everybody else is doing, the main thing is that the people are getting the word of God, and you have to be, assured in that and have confidence in that. For ministry, though, I tell you, our church didn't put a lot in the media part. We put some, but nowhere near in what it was or what it is right now.
Wow.
And so what this has done, it forced us to budget more in the media aspect of it, and enforcing importance. And so what it's done is the media people are essential. Before we were just hello, thank you, we appreciate what you're doing.
Right.
But what this has done, because think about it, if the media people didn't do what they do, then the word wouldn't go forth during this season. I mean, because we weren't in church, right? So they play a key role. And I think it's forced every church, if you're going to be effective, my opinion, effective and really reach the people, you've got to have a good media team. You can't have no just raggedy camera, because raggedy camera is going to mean that you're going to have raggedy work going out. This is representative of you, your church, your ministry. And sometimes, as you say, we go around virtually, we look on Facebook Live, YouTube, whatever streaming device, however you get it out there, people are looking. And if it just takes one time, and if it's a bad look, they will like, forget, I'm going somewhere else. So I think it's important as to how you look, and media has changed along with ministry of me as a preacher pastor.
Which brings us to the future.
Yeah.
Right. Looking at the future now.
Yeah.
It looks like we can I guess create a new normal here in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
To where I'm looking at the back half of the year, going on even into 2022.
Yeah.
23, 24, 25. What does pastoring look like, moving forward from your perspective? I mean, because you just mentioned some of the things you had to dump into the media ministry, right? Now pastors are going to have to shift and adjust.
Yes.
Because now it changes the dynamic. I was just talking about this the other day. I didn't teach Bible study this past Wednesday. One of my associates did, and it gives me an opportunity to train them.
Right.
They were like, man, that was different. Because now you have to engage, because we have people sitting in the room. You got people that are on Zoom.
Right.
You got, you have to now, as a pastor, you have to engage so many different platforms at the same time.
Right.
So how does that change the multifaceted tasks of the pastor over the next 5 years?
Yeah. It's a big change. And let me begin by saying we have to change our analytics in the sense of what we value and because what once was is not going to be relevant.
Wow.
Moving forward.
Wow.
It's constantly changing. It's like sometimes we focus on numbers, and I'm guilty. I was. You got good green grass. I was wondering why too much Miracle Grow ruins the growth of the grass. And if you want really good green grass, that's what's gonna kill your weeds.
Wow.
And so it's about feeding the people during this time. When you talk about good numbers, what they look like, it's not necessarily in the numbers, but it's in the health of the sheep. I remember when I was a goat farmer. I'm country. Yeah, man.
Oh, man.
Farmer, yeah. And so there was these goats I was looking at, and I was like, man, he had a whole bunch of goats. And they number them when you take them to the goat barn, the sale, like them 1s, 2s, 3s, utilities. And there was a guy who had about 50 to 100, or about 60, 70 goats.
Yeah.
He's sitting there, and he came off his truck. Then there was a man who had 10.
Wow.
And I was putting value on the one that sent the most.
Yeah.
When I looked at kind of his numbers, and what kind of goats he was getting, 'cause I stayed to the end of the sale, and I looked, well, the guy that just had the 10 goats, all 10 of his turned out to be number ones.
Wow.
Did you hear me? All 10.
All 10.
All 10. The other one that had 60 or 70 or so, he had some 1s, he had some 2s, he had some utilities, but all 10. They weren't all going to 1s. I said all that to say this, is that we have to really pay attention to the teaching of our people, because it's important that they become healthy.
Wow.
How can we make them healthy and take it off of numbers? I was so fascinated with the numbers game, Bishop. What I did was it did something to my psyche. When I saw there were 20 people that were watching our live.
Wow.
It did something to me. Wow. It shook me, because we were averaging about 125, 150 people.
Man, this is good.
In the pew.
Yeah.
And now on your live, you're looking at just 20 people. It shook me.
Yeah.
It shook me so much so that what I did was I started putting $25 on Facebook ads to boost the numbers, in the sense of what it looked like.
Yeah.
That Connection Hill was relevant.
Wow, man.
Because it was in the, I was so, it shook me for a little while.
Yeah.
I did. It shook me because my value was in how many people are watching you. And that meant that you were a successful pastor based on the numbers. And it shook me. That, I believe, Brother Bishop, has to change. It's going to change in what we do, what we value is one of the things that's going to change. I want to also suggest this, as I heard Bishop Walter Scott Thomas talk about. We're the chefs. We're in the kitchen. That's good. And we have to do the best we can with the pots and the pans that we have in our congregations.
Oh my God.
And so we're the chefs. Yeah. During this time of pandemic, Bishop, people are hungry.
Yes.
And we cannot, as the chef, not cook.
Wow.
And it's up to us to get the recipe. People are hungry.
Yeah.
And so, back in the day, I know both of us can relate in a sense. Back in the day, we heard stories. That's how I say how we can relate. We heard stories. We didn't experience this, but we heard stories of if mama and them didn't have it, grandmama them didn't have it, they would borrow some missing ingredient. So that they could make sure that the meal was finished.
That's it. Yeah.
And so now in churches,
come on,
what has happened, we as the chef, as you cook, as I cook, we need some ingredients. I ought to be able to go to your house and borrow some of what you have so we can make the meal together so all of us can eat. Well, as we heard, sometimes our neighbors didn't have it.
My God.
And so what we had to do was we had to substitute what we had and made it go.
Yeah.
Bishop, during this time of pandemic, this is where we are.
Yeah.
We can't not cook. And we got to cook with what we have, the pots and the pans. I mean, listen, you may have better pans, better pots than I have, but I got to cook with my pot and my pan that I have, that God has given me till I can get some more pans. I can't use that as an excuse because we got to cook. We've got to think and get our recipes together and know our sheep. Because some stuff we put in, Bishop, is too hot. They can't eat it. We got to know our sheep. And so we've got to make sure that they eat, that they come into the table. This is important during this time. We have to change what we value. In numerical numbers. We can't get hung up on the analytics of it, but we have to maintain what the mission is and cook with our pots and our pans and just trust Jesus through all of this. So that's one thing. I'm sorry, I just went over.
Man, go ahead, man.
I think this era of pastoring full time.
Come on now, this
is on its last leg.
Oh man,
for the next few years, decade maybe. I think it's coming. Those who are full time now may be safe, but going forward, we're going to be in a time where the pastor is going to have to be creative in ways of another type of income. I say this because there's a new group of people that we preach to and pastor now. There's a group that's gonna come in person, and then there's the virtual group and so we're not gonna have the numbers we had in person that we used to have. The commitment level may be there, but it may not be there as far as in person, and the connection is going to have to be. We have to watch the connection. I think our connecting is going to be a little different. We're still going to connect, but not so much so. Not so much so where we put all our money in a brick and mortar. And it takes away from the ministry of what God has called us to do.
To draw some application to that.
Yeah.
You think about the 10 pastors. Think about 10 pastors right now.
Yeah.
How many of them are full time?
Yeah.
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like what you're speaking to is so real.
Yeah.
the full-time pastor in the future is going to be kind of, a thing of, I mean, if you get to be a full-time pastor, like, man, you're one of the few.
Yeah.
If that is the case, would you say, I want to go back to something you said.
Yeah.
One of the feelings you had as you were preaching and you saw those numbers, you said it really bothered you a little bit.
Yeah.
Did it make you feel like you were, did you feel a sense of inadequacy a little bit as a pastor to say, am I really being effective? Did you go through that stage?
Yes, sir. I did. I went through that stage, man. It shook me because when it becomes a competition thing. You're competing with your colleagues.
Yeah. Yeah.
The word says pride go before destruction. And so it's going to end up killing you because when I have conversations with, my buds, all of it, man, we had so. And then you sitting there with 20 people. Yeah, you don't even feel like you're on the same level. You don't even seem like you fit in the same room,
Wow.
And I think what this has done is it's exposed us as well, some good, some bad, because if you just lean totally on the hoop, it came out for me, it came out like, now, bro, you're going to have to teach if you wasn't teaching.
Wow.
Because the hoop ain't just going to get people out of their situation and circumstance, you know?
Yeah.
And I love to celebrate and all that.
Right.
But the main thing is to make sure that they get the meat of it and then, go with the gravy. And during this time, the gravy is not so much important. It's the meat. It's how we're going to get through and live during this time.
Yeah.
And that's the main focal point. I believe in that. But it shook me.
And now we're thinking about from the pastoral perspective, right?
Yeah.
You take the church out of it for a minute. Let's talk about the mental, emotional health of the pastor.
Yeah.
My whole concept, Pastor Plus, I think, did you get a chance I think you got a chance to meet my dad. I don't,
passing.
In passing.
Yeah.
One of my inspirations for that book was my dad was at the end of his ministry. The last 2 years, he didn't want to pastor.
Yeah, wow.
But he couldn't do nothing else.
Wow.
Because, he comes from that school that says you just preach till the Lord call you home,
sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
But he was miserable, man.
Yeah.
And I look at, like you just said, to that pastor who may have that moment right there, but just can't shake it.
Yeah.
But then trying to figure out, okay, what else can I do? I think that's where this Pastor Plus concept is helping pastors tap into, you've been blessed, just like I was, you've been blessed to be bivocational.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which means you have other skills.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So I think my idea of helping pastors understand what other skills you can use, not only to do ministry, but to monetize.
Yeah.
So that you're creating revenue and income for your family, so that you're not just depending on.
Right.
You just said it, full-time pastors in the future is going to be. So if you're not depending on that, then that would be no problem. You can continue to do ministry. How important is it just individual pastors to have something else?
It's going to be very important because if we don't have anything else, it's going to be the death of us. As a matter of fact, you spoke of your dad, and this is where I even struggle with finding my me. Tradition can actually end up being the death of us if we don't watch it.
Wow.
During this time, we're going to have to be willing to step out of our familiar. It's just inevitable. If the traditional person, pastor, if he stays in the era prior to COVID, prior to the pandemic, and does not change, in this next season, he's going to be I mean, it as it don't matter.
Wow.
As and I think we have to come to grips with it.
Yeah.
We got to realize our limitations.
Yeah.
And address them, and be okay. Some pastors need a helping hand up. I need you to help me up during this time. Some pastors need a hand that's held. They need a hand hold me through this.
Yeah.
Because you walk with me every step of the way. And there's some pastors who you just need to hear it, and they can go on.
Yeah.
And so wherever that pastor is, just acknowledge that, and it's okay. One thing I think what kills us is we won't admit our inadequacies, our insufficiencies, even address our insecurities, and the devil plays on those things, and that's what kills us. And unfortunately, what's going to kill us is what's going to be the death of our people as well.
Wow. And
because the people are depending on us if we have no hope. So it's crucial for me. I'm as traditional as they come. I can. Hey, listen, I'm like your dad, man. Yeah. This is so different. It's caused me. Listen, I'm trying to do a podcast, and I started out. I had podcast failure. I started writing. I mean, it's this book. No, it's not even a book no more. I mean, it's. But at least you got to dream.
Yeah, man.
You got to imagine.
Yeah.
I've been so inspired by yourself, Mac and others who you see on Facebook Live. You see addressing the people. You know what that does? That does for me as a pastor is it inspires me to move from just a pulpit type familiar.
Come on, man.
And allow me to step out and move forward. And I think that's, it's okay. You know what, Bishop? We got to learn too. It's okay to mess up on a Facebook Live.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay to make some errors. It's okay. Listen, it won't be like that all the time.
Right.
It's like life. You learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
And if you need some help, go get it.
Call for help.
Go for it. Yeah. Yes, sir.
And I think this is so interesting because pastors don't have those spaces.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have this in this unfamiliar season.
Yeah.
We don't have those spaces where we can call up someone and get resources. Yeah. I've heard from some pastors to say, I don't even know where to start. You're talking about doing some other things, outside of normal church, outside. I don't even know where to start with that, Or I've heard some pastors say, I keep hearing you talk about ministry and marketplace. I don't know what to say to that guy that's out there, But I think that's where we need to create spaces for this kind of resource to be available. Yeah. Well, I'm creating a space.
Yeah.
Coming here in June on the 24th and 25th.
Yeah.
I'm doing a Pastor Plus retreat.
Oh wow. Yeah, yes,
and man,
that's good.
2 days, man, of just pumping. I'm bringing in social media experts. Yeah. I'm bringing in graphics people. Yeah. I'm bringing in video people. I'm bringing in content writers. I'm bringing in. So we're going to be exposed to the marketplace. Yeah. This is not your average church conference.
Wow.
I want pastors to leave there so empowered and so equipped, man, that you feel like I'm ready for the next 5-10 years. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
How important do you believe that is in this next season? Yeah. Because exposure is everything.
Yes.
If I'm never exposed to something different, I'm going to continue to do what I've always done.
Yeah.
There might be a pastor watching and saying, I don't want to go into that. That's not, I mean, we're used to our normal church conference.
Yeah.
How important is it for us to be exposed? And I'm not saying that the components of ministry changes, but I'm thinking method.
Yes.
How we do what we do.
Yeah.
Do you think that's something that's important in this next season?
It's going to be very important. It's going to make sure that you're relevant, make sure that we're feeding our people totally, because we'll have some tools tools are very important, and exposure is the key. You can't take somebody a place that you haven't been before or lead them. And so you've got to be able to, and I think exposure is going to help them. Let me say this too, that what you're doing is going to change the life of pastors who are stuck during this time.
Wow.
Because you're able to hit in every area of ministry that needs to be addressed and that we need to have a handle on. And the exposure of it is at least a start. But then once you start, there's some more steps.
There's some more steps. Yeah.
The exposure alone will produce an experience. And I think that is key. What you're going to do. I love what you're doing. You've always had this in you. I thank God. You helped us, the Connection Hill Church, years ago.
Wow.
Be the first national primitive Baptist church to ever stream live.
Wow.
You helped us do that.
Oh,
and that was just me as a pastor asking for some help because you were already in the arena. I mean, so that's been some years ago.
Wow.
But at that time, we were the first. That was not I had asked, I said, does everybody know you're the only one that's streaming live? And it was through the mistakes of Wi-Fi. I was like, hey, Bishop, I said, Pastor Johnson, we all of a sudden it just started freezing. What's going on? So we had errors, right? Errors. But we were in a new era. We had some errors, and it took a phone call. You said, hey, you need to hardwire it.
Yeah.
When we hardwired everything, it fixed the problem. And so that's what's going to help us during this time. It's been in you. And I can appreciate from a traditional pastor helping us. I'm the one. I admit I raise my hand.
Yes, sir.
I have some limitations, and so in this era, I need some help. I need some help. I mean, I can have some. I need some help preaching. If you got some of that too, but I need help in tooling.
Yeah.
And giving our people the tools.
Most definitely.
What do I need?
Most definitely.
How can I empower the people that I pastor? Where do I need to tell them to go? Where can I get some resources? Since we're talking about it's a possibility going forward that there might not be full-time funds for me, or if my ministry is drying up. Where can I get some resources to tap into to keep our ministry going? Because the truth of the matter is our numbers that we were talking about that gets in our head sometimes are going to decrease. And if certain numbers decrease, it means your finances are going to decrease.
Most definitely.
So I don't want the change of the pandemic coming out of it to mean it's the end of my church or the end of the people or maybe even the end of me.
Wow, man, you said, whew, man, you're talking real good, man. And I think so many pastors need conversations like this, and we're fixing that space. This has been fun, man. I think you got to come back again.
Bless
man.
you. Bless you. Listen, anytime, Bishop, you want us to come and have a conversation, listen, we welcome it. I'm as traditional as they come. It's a new era for me.
But I love it, though.
I appreciate you.
I think we all add. I think we need to do a better job as pastors, celebrating each other.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? We all add value to the ministry. We're all on the same team.
Yes, that's right.
We're all trying to get folks out of hell.
Right. Yes, sir.
And get them in heaven.
Yes,
you
sir.
know?
Yes, sir.
So I love it, man. We're all going to be needed in this season. Yeah. And so I really, really appreciate the gift in you, man. And I'm not just saying that loosely.
Oh, bless you.
You know, I watch you. I'm not, some people don't want to admit that they watch another church. Yeah. I watch you, man. When I need to get preached to.
Oh, bless you.
I let me go over here to Howse. I know he's going to preach me, man. You know?
Bless you.
And, man, tell everybody before we go, how they can get in contact with you. What do you have going on, man? We want to tap into it, man.
Bishop, listen, it's just simple. Now, once I go to the conference, I may have some other social media places.
I like it.
I'm just on Facebook. I have only one. I told you I'm traditional as they come. I'm just on Facebook. I ain't got no Instagram. I ain't got no Twitter. I think I do have a Twitter, but I forgot how to log on that.
Well, you can create an Instagram now and post to Instagram and Facebook at the same time.
Okay, so I'm gonna need you to send me the instructions today. I'm gonna go through the class.
I love it. I love it.
Yes, sir.
Man, this has been Pastor Corey Howse of the Connection Hill Primitive Baptist Church there in
Thompson Station.
Yes, man. I've been out there. Yeah. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. In the country. Yeah. And you guys hit him up on Facebook. This has been another episode of the Pastor Plus podcast. And those of you who want information about the retreat coming up, just go to my website, cajohnson.org. Top of the page, just click on Pastor Plus. That retreat is there. As always, man, I want to encourage every pastor not to just be a pastor, but find a way to be a pastor plus. God bless you, everybody.